The range was already loud before the shot, a steady rhythm of controlled fire echoing off the berms, brass clinking on concrete, instructors barking corrections through ear protection. Heat shimmered above the gravel like a living thing. The SEALs had been rotating lanes all morning, drills blending into one another, muscle memory doing most of the work. This was supposed to be routine, a confidence builder between deployments, nothing that would surprise men who had seen cities burn and seas turn black with fuel and blood. Then a single round cracked through the air, sharper than the rest, cleaner, cutting the noise in half like a blade. For a fraction of a second, no one breathed. The target at the far end of the range shuddered, the steel plate snapping backward on its chain, ringing once, twice, then settling. It wasn't the sound that froze them. It was the placement. Dead center, from a lane that wasn't even active. No call of, up. No instructor command. Just the shot. Who took that shot? Someone demanded, voice edged with irritation, the kind that comes when rules are broken in places where rules keep people alive. Eyes turned down the firing line. Weapons were still shouldered, safeties engaged, fingers indexed. A couple of operators lifted their heads, scanning. No one spoke. The wind carried dust across the targets. Somewhere a casing rolled to a stop. I said, "Who took that shot?" The range officer stepped forward, anger creeping into his tone. He was a senior chief with a voice that had quieted rooms before. He expected an answer. The SEALs glanced at each other, confusion spreading. The lane in question had been empty, the rifle rack untouched. A few men shook their heads. One laughed once, short and disbelieving, as if someone had pulled a joke that didn't land. Then the instructor at the far end raised a hand slowly. "Sir," he said, pointing past the line, "that shot came from behind us." They turned. At the edge of the range, where the gravel met the shade of a concrete overhang, a woman stood with a rifle lowered but ready, sling tight against her shoulder. She wore the same camo, the same dust, but there was something different in how she held herself, like gravity had decided to behave better around her. Her hair was tucked away, her face calm, unreadable behind ballistic glasses. She didn't flinch under the sudden attention. "Range is hot," the senior chief snapped automatically. "You don't fire without." "Yes, chief," she said, voice steady, cutting him off without raising it. "Range was hot. Your lane 3 shooter drifted right on his last string. I corrected for wind and took the plate before his next round went long." That drew a few mutters. Lane 3's shooter bristled, opening his mouth to protest, then closing it as he replayed his last shots in his head. The wind had shifted. He had felt it. "You corrected," the chief repeated. "From back there." She nodded once. 610 yards. Quartering wind. "You can check the cameras." The chief stared at her, anger wrestling with disbelief. "Who are you?" She reached into her chest pocket and pulled out her ID, holding it up without stepping forward. "Commander Elena Voss, attached for evaluation." The range went silent in a different way. Not the stunned quiet of a surprise, but the heavy pause that comes when everyone recalculates their footing. A commander. Not a guest. Not an observer. An officer with authority that outranked nearly everyone on the line. Someone let out a low whistle before catching himself. A couple of SEALs straightened, instincts kicking in. The senior chief's jaw worked as he adjusted, professionalism snapping back into place. "Commander," he said, tone shifting, "with respect, you can't just." "I know the rules," Voss said. She finally stepped forward, boots crunching softly. "I also know when to break them. That shooter would have sent a round off the berm. I prevented it." The chief exhaled through his nose. He didn't like it, but he couldn't deny it without proof. "We'll review the footage." "Please do." They watched the replay together. Cameras mounted along the range showed the moment Lane 3's rifle wavered, the mirage bending, the subtle drift that only a practiced eye would catch. Then, from behind, the flash of Voss's muzzle, the plate snapping cleanly. No one spoke when the video ended. The chief cleared his throat. "Range is cold," he announced after a beat. "Clear and safe." As the line relaxed, curiosity replaced tension. Men who had faced gunfire leaned toward one another, whispering. A female commander wasn't unheard of, but a shot like that, unannounced, from behind the line. That was something else. Voss set her rifle on the bench, cleared it with methodical precision, then looked up. "I didn't come here to show off," she said. I came to see how you move, how you think, how you react when the plan breaks. One of the SEALs, a senior operator with a scar pulling at the corner of his mouth, crossed his arms. And what did you see, ma'am? She met his gaze without hesitation. Skill, confidence, and a blind spot. A few eyebrows rose. No one took offense. Not yet. Which is? Another asked. That you trust the drill more than the conditions, Voss said. You're excellent at executing orders. You need to be just as excellent at questioning them. The scarred operator chuckled. You saying we're robots? I'm saying robots don't survive first contact, she replied. There was a beat, then laughter rippled down the line, easing the edge. Respect, tentative but real, began to settle in. They ran the drill again, this time with Voss observing openly. She corrected stances, adjusted optics, pointed out when calls most had missed. When she demonstrated, she did it without flourish, each movement efficient, almost economical. Her shots spoke for her, grouping tight enough to make grown men shake their heads. During a break, someone finally asked the question hanging in the air. Where'd you learn to shoot like that? Voss took a sip of water, eyes on the targets. My father taught me, she said. He was infantry. He said marksmanship is about honesty. The rifle tells you the truth about yourself. The SEAL nodded slowly. Guess it doesn't lie. No, she agreed. People do. By the end of the day, the demand of, who took that shot, had transformed into something else entirely. It became a story passed along with grins, a moment when assumptions were checked and recalibrated. The range had frozen not because of authority alone, but because of undeniable competence. As the sun dipped low and gear was packed away, Voss addressed them one last time. If today taught you anything, she said, let it be this. Threats don't announce themselves. Excellence shouldn't have to either. She paused, then added with a faint smile, and if you want more stories like this, more moments where expectations are shattered and skill speaks louder than rank, don't forget to subscribe to the channel Her World Stories. You'll find these lessons aren't just for the range. The SEALs watched her walk away, rifle slung, silhouette cutting against the fading light. Tomorrow they would deploy, drills put to the test in places where mistakes were paid for dearly. Tonight, they carried something new with them, a reminder that sometimes the shot you don't expect is the one that saves you. And somewhere between the echo of that single round and the quiet that followed, a line had been crossed, not by defiance, but by mastery, leaving behind a lesson none of them would forget.